Have you ever felt that chill run down your spine as you stepped into an old, abandoned building? Imagine walking through hallways filled with echoes of the past, where every creak of the floor and whisper of the wind hints at secrets long forgotten. Tonight, I invite you to join me on a journey into the mysterious and eerie realm of haunted schools, places where history and horror intertwine in the most unexpected ways. In this video, we will delve into 3 spine-tingling stories of old schools that are said to be haunted by spirits of the past. These are not mere tales spun to thrill. They are legends steeped in local lore, passed down from one generation to the next, each story weaving a tapestry of mystery, fear, and the unexplained. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, the chilling accounts we're about to explore will leave you questioning what truly lies behind the veil of our everyday world. Tonight, as we stand on the threshold of these haunted corridors, consider the possibility that some memories never fade. The laughter of students, the murmur of teachers, even the clatter of footsteps in empty hallways, all may be echoes of lives once lived, now trapped in a loop of eternal repetition. Could it be that the spirit of an old educator lingers, still watching over the classrooms, or that a forgotten student's presence haunts the deserted playground? So, settle in and prepare yourself for a story that will send shivers down your spine. This is not just a recounting of ghostly legends, it's an invitation to explore the shadows of our past and perhaps to see the familiar in a new, chilling light. Welcome to 3 scary, haunted old school stories, where every tale beckons you to uncover the mysteries hidden in the corridors of time. Let me take you back to the year 1978, to a small town where Maplewood High School stood as a proud symbol of education and community. But behind its brick facade and time-worn corridors lay a secret that would haunt its halls for decades to come. A secret known as the Lost Classroom. It began with whispers of a particular room tucked away at the end of a seldom-used corridor on the 2nd floor. Teachers and students alike spoke in hushed tones about room 217. Legend had it that during a particularly harsh winter, a beloved history teacher, Mr. Anderson, had mysteriously disappeared from this very room. One cold evening, as a raging storm battered the school, he was last seen preparing his lesson in room 217. His sudden vanishing left a void not only in the hearts of his students, but also in the corridors of the school itself. Over the years, strange occurrences began to plague the building. It started with inexplicable cold drafts in the middle of summer and soft, echoing footsteps when the hallways should have been empty. Some claim to have seen a shadowy figure pacing behind a dusty window of room 217, as if retracing the steps of a man lost in time. The most chilling accounts came from those who spent late evenings in the library or after-school study halls. They reported hearing a familiar, gentle humming, almost like a lullaby, and catching fleeting glimpses of a figure in an old-fashioned teacher's suit, standing silently by the chalkboard. One autumn evening, a group of students decided to confront the legend head-on. Armed with nothing but their curiosity and a determination to debunk the myth, they snuck into the school after hours. As they approached room 217, the temperature seemed to drop sharply, and an eerie silence fell over the building. With hearts pounding, they slowly pushed open the creaking door. Inside, the room appeared exactly as it had decades ago. Rows of wooden desks, a large chalkboard filled with faded writings, and an old dusty globe that sat silently in the corner. Suddenly, one of the students, Emily, felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. Turning slowly, she was met with nothing but darkness, until, in the dim light, she saw the faint outline of a man standing by the window. His eyes, filled with a mix of sorrow and longing, seemed to plead silently for something he could not speak. The students, now gripped by both fear and empathy, watched as the figure drifted closer. He raised a hand, as if trying to say goodbye, and then vanished just as mysteriously as he had appeared. The encounter left the students with more questions than answers. Who was this lost soul? Was it truly Mr. Anderson, forever bound to the school by unfinished business, or merely a trick of the mind? Over the following weeks, the school buzzed with new energy and a mix of terror and respect for the mystery of room 217. Teachers recounted how the gentle humming had occasionally been heard echoing in the hallways during quiet moments, a reminder that some memories are too strong to fade away completely. In time, the legend of the lost classroom became more than just a spooky story. It became a part of Maplewood High's history. Alumni claimed that on certain cold, wintry nights, if you stood by the window of room 217, you could almost see the faint glow of Mr. Anderson's figure, silently watching over the students he once so dearly cared for. His presence was both a warning and a comfort, a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring nature of care and dedication. So, as we delve deeper into these haunted stories, remember that sometimes the line between the living and the departed is thinner than we think. The story of room 217 is a testament to the echoes of the past that continue to linger in the places we once called home, a spectral reminder that some souls, even when lost, are never truly forgotten. Our next story takes us deep into the heart of an old school building with a legacy of excellence and a secret that has haunted its halls for decades. This is the story of the Phantom Principal, a tale that begins in the 1960s at Crestwood Academy, a school known for its rigorous academics and strict discipline. But behind its distinguished reputation, whispers of an enigmatic presence in the principal's office began to surface, a presence that many believed was not entirely of this world. It all started on a chilly autumn afternoon when the school was bustling with the usual energy of students rushing to class and teachers preparing for the day ahead. Principal Harold Whitaker was a figure of authority and respect, a man who dedicated his life to the education and well-being of his students. Yet, on that day, something felt different. An unusual stillness hung in the air as he closed the door to his office for a brief moment. When he returned, the room was not as he had left it. His meticulously organized desk was in disarray, and a faint, inexplicable odor of old cigar smoke lingered, even though he never smoked. Rumors began to spread like wildfire. Staff members recalled other strange occurrences, files mysteriously disappearing from his desk, personal effects moving from one spot to another, and the faint sound of a soft, authoritative voice reciting instructions long after the building had emptied. The most unnerving event happened during a particularly stormy evening when the power went out. As maintenance staff made their way through the darkened corridors, they heard the unmistakable sound of shuffling footsteps and a muffled voice issuing orders as if calling out names for attendance. When they reached the principal's office, they found the door ajar and a single, flickering desk lamp casting long, eerie shadows across the room. The staff pieced together an unsettling narrative. Principal Whitaker, known for his unwavering commitment to discipline, had passed away under mysterious circumstances just a few weeks prior. His sudden death had been attributed to a heart attack, but those who had worked closely with him felt that there was something unfinished, something that kept his spirit tethered to the place he loved, the very school where he had shaped so many lives. In the months that followed, more unexplained events added to the legend of the Phantom Principal. Late at night, Custodians would report hearing the sound of footsteps pacing the empty corridors and the creak of the old wooden door to his office opening and closing, as if the principal were still making his rounds. A group of dedicated teachers, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, decided to set up a discreet investigation. They placed a small recorder on the edge of the principal's desk one evening, and what they captured sent shivers down their spines. In the background of what seemed like a silent room, there was a clear, measured tone, a voice calmly saying, "It's time to be seated. We have work to do." One particularly brave teacher recounted a personal encounter. Late one evening, as she was grading papers in the quiet sanctum of her classroom, she felt compelled to step outside for some fresh air. As she wandered near the administrative block, she was drawn to the principal's office by an inexplicable force. She hesitated at the threshold and then, with a deep breath, pushed the door open. There, standing in the half-light, was a figure in a neatly pressed suit. His expression was solemn, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and determination. Without uttering a word, he slowly walked over to the large portrait that hung above his desk, a portrait of the man he once was. For a moment, she felt as if time itself had paused, listening to the silent conversation between the living and the departed. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, the figure faded into the shadows, leaving her with more questions than answers. To this day, Crestwood Academy remains a place where the spirit of Principal Whitaker is felt by all who pass through its halls. Former students and staff often share stories of late-night visits to the office, where the lamp on the desk remains mysteriously lit, and the air is filled with a sense of duty and care. It's as if the principal, even in death, continues to watch over the institution, ensuring that discipline, kindness, and excellence prevail. This haunting reminds us that some legacies transcend the physical world. The story of the phantom principal is not merely a ghost story meant to thrill. It is a testament to the enduring impact of those who leave their mark on our hearts. In the silent corridors of Crestwood Academy, the spirit of Principal Whitaker continues to guide, protect, and remind us that true leadership never fades away. It lingers, waiting to be acknowledged by those who believe. Our final tale brings us to the venerable halls of Eastbridge Preparatory, a school steeped in history and tradition, but also in mystery. This is the story of the Wailing Choir, a legend that has echoed through the corridors of the school for generations, leaving behind a trail of whispers and unanswered questions. It all began on a cool winter evening in the early 1980s. Eastbridge Preparatory was known for its grand auditorium, a place where students gathered to perform, celebrate, and, sometimes, to experience the inexplicable. That night, as the final notes of the school choir's rehearsal faded into silence, a sudden, eerie sound filled the space. What initially seemed like a mere echo soon grew into a haunting melody, a soft, sorrowful wail that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. Students and faculty alike soon started recounting similar experiences. The sound would arise unexpectedly, even on days when the auditorium was empty. Some claimed that the choir's voices, though unmistakably familiar, carried an otherworldly timbre, a mix of beauty and despair that transcended the living. Rumors spread that the voice belonged to a long-forgotten choir master, Mr. Samuel Hargrove, whose passion for music was matched only by his mysterious disappearance decades earlier. According to local lore, Mr. Hargrove had been preparing the choir for a national competition when a tragic accident occurred backstage. His sudden death left a void not only in the hearts of those who admired him, but in the very soul of the school's musical tradition. As the months turned into years, the legend of the Wailing Choir took on a life of its own. Late-night custodians reported that while cleaning the auditorium after hours, they would hear soft, melodic singing echoing through the empty seats. The notes would swell and recede like a tide, leaving behind a lingering sadness that seemed to permeate the walls. One particularly memorable incident involved a group of students who, during a sleepover at the school for a club meeting, gathered in the auditorium to tell ghost stories. As midnight approached, the room fell silent, and then, as if from nowhere, the mournful strains of a choir filled the air. The students, hearts pounding and breath held tight, listened as the music rose to a crescendo before abruptly ceasing, leaving them in a silence that was deafening in its intensity. The most compelling account came from Ms. Evelyn Carter, the music teacher who had dedicated her life to preserving the school's storied musical legacy. One evening, while preparing for a recital, she was drawn to the auditorium by a sound that she could not ignore. As she stepped inside, the unmistakable harmony of a choir singing softly beckoned her deeper into the room. There, standing by the old grand piano, she felt an overwhelming presence, a mix of longing and sorrow that was impossible to ignore. For several moments, she believed she could see a translucent figure, dressed in the formal attire of a bygone era, her eyes reflecting both joy and heartbreak. Ms. Carter described the experience as if the spirit was conveying a silent message, that the music was a reminder of dreams and destinies unfulfilled. In the days that followed, the story of the Wailing Choir became interwoven with the very fabric of Eastbridge Preparatory. The choir's haunting melody was no longer seen as a mere ghost story, but as a symbol of the enduring power of passion and artistry. Alumni would return to the school and insist that, in the quiet hours of the night, the sound of the choir could still be heard, as if Mr. Hargrove's spirit was forever watching over the music room, ensuring that every note played carried the weight of history and hope. Even today, as the school continues to evolve with new generations of students, the legend of the Wailing Choir endures. It serves as a reminder that some melodies are too profound to be confined to the past. The echoes of that tragic night remain, a spectral chorus that bridges the gap between life and death. A bittersweet serenade to all who have ever loved the magic of music. As our journey through these haunted halls comes to a close, take a moment to reflect on the chilling tales we've uncovered tonight. From the mystery of room 217 at Maplewood High, to the spectral presence of Crestwood Academy's phantom principal, and the heart-wrenching echoes of the Wailing Choir at Eastbridge Preparatory, each story leaves us with more questions than answers. They remind us that every place has its history, sometimes a history that clings to the walls, whispering secrets long forgotten. In the quiet moments after the stories fade, consider the possibility that the past is never truly gone. The legends we've shared speak to the power of memory and the indelible impact that lives and events have on our surroundings. Perhaps it's the lost teacher, the devoted principal, or the passionate choir master whose unfinished business transcends the boundaries of life and death. Their spirits linger, not as malevolent forces, but as reminders of the love, care, and sometimes the sorrow that once filled these hallowed halls. As you walk away from these tales tonight, let your imagination wander. Think of the forgotten corridors in your own world, the places that hold a whisper of a memory, a trace of a story waiting to be told. Sometimes the echoes of the past are not meant to terrify us, but to connect us with a deeper, more mysterious part of our shared human experience. They encourage us to look beyond what we can see, to listen to the quiet voices that tell us history is not always silent. Thank you for joining me on this eerie exploration of haunted old school stories. I hope these accounts have sparked a curiosity in you, a desire to delve a little deeper into the mysteries of the past, and perhaps even to look at the familiar with fresh eyes. Remember, sometimes the most ordinary places hide the most extraordinary secrets. Until next time, keep your senses sharp, your mind open, and your heart brave. This is Your Name, signing off and reminding you that every shadow has a story, waiting patiently for the right moment to be heard.